We live in the most connected era in human history, and yet anxiety has quietly become one of our most common experiences. Our phones are always near. Our minds are rarely at rest. We scroll more, but feel less present. We consume more information, but understand ourselves less. Two 2,000 years ago, long before screens and algorithms, Jesus spoke words that addressed the human heart. Not trends, not technology, the heart. Tonight, we are not here to escape the modern world. We are here to listen more deeply within it. We live surrounded by noise. Not only the noise of traffic or crowded cities, but a deeper noise, the constant hum of notifications, opinions, updates, and endless content. Silence has become rare, almost suspicious. When nothing is playing, scrolling, or responding, many of us feel uneasy. Jesus lived in a world without digital technology, yet he understood something timeless about the human soul. Without stillness, we lose ourselves. Again and again, the Gospels describe him withdrawing to quiet places, not to escape responsibility, but to remain grounded. Stillness in Jesus' teaching is not absence, it is presence. It is the space where clarity forms and anxiety loosens its grip. In the digital age, silence feels unproductive, even wasteful. Yet Jesus shows us that silence is where truth settles. Our anxiety often grows not because life is too difficult, but because our minds are never allowed to rest. When every moment is filled, nothing can be processed. Stillness becomes an act of resistance against a culture that profits from our attention. Jesus invites us back to quiet, not as retreat from the world, but as restoration within it. In silence, we remember who we are, beyond notifications, beyond expectations, beyond noise. And there, peace begins. Modern anxiety is deeply tied to control. We refresh feeds, track trends, monitor outcomes, and consume endless information in the hope that knowing more will make us safer. Yet, the opposite often happens. The more we try to control the future, the heavier our fear becomes. Jesus spoke directly to this impulse when he said, "Do not worry about tomorrow." This was not a call to irresponsibility, but an invitation to trust. Anxiety, in his teaching, is not a moral failure. It is a sign that the soul is trying to carry more than it was designed to hold. The digital world amplifies uncertainty while promising certainty. Algorithms suggest they know what we need, what we want, what will happen next. But beneath this illusion lies exhaustion. Constant updates do not create peace. They fragment attention. Jesus offers a different path. He does not promise control, he offers grounding. Trust in his wisdom is learning to live fully in the present without demanding guarantees from the future. When we release the need to predict everything, the nervous system softens. Faith becomes less about belief systems and more about where we place our weight. In a world obsessed with control, Jesus teaches us how to rest without certainty and remain whole. Comparison is one of the quietest sources of modern suffering. Social media turns life into a continuous measuring system. Likes, views, followers, success, beauty, productivity. Even without intention, the mind absorbs these metrics and turns them inward. Jesus never taught comparison. He never ranked people by visibility or influence. Instead, he consistently affirmed inherent worth. Fishermen, children, the poor, the overlooked, each was seen fully, without hierarchy. In the digital age, identity becomes performative. We curate ourselves, adjust ourselves, market ourselves. Over time, the soul forgets how to simply be. Comparison creates anxiety because it replaces being with becoming, always chasing, never arriving. Jesus dismantles this system quietly but powerfully. He asks, what does it profit a person to gain the whole world and lose their soul? This question cuts through modern culture with surprising clarity. Worth, in Jesus' teaching, is not earned through recognition. It is given. When we stop comparing, the heart becomes spacious again. Contentment returns not because we have more, but because we are no longer measuring ourselves against illusions. Never before has humanity had access to so much information, and never before has clarity felt so elusive. News arrives instantly, opinions multiply endlessly, yet understanding grows thinner. Jesus taught primarily through parables, stories, not data. Parables require time. They slow the listener down. They cannot be skimmed or summarized without losing their depth. In contrast, digital culture rewards speed, reaction, and certainty. Information overload creates anxiety because the mind is asked to process more than the heart can integrate. Wisdom, however, does not arrive through volume. It arrives through reflection. Jesus understood that truth needs space. He rarely rushed to explain. He allowed silence to do part of the teaching. In doing so, he modeled a different relationship to knowledge, one rooted in transformation rather than consumption. The digital age has taught us how to know more. Jesus teaches us how to know deeper. When we slow down, wisdom begins to reappear, not as answers, but as orientation. And anxiety loosens when meaning returns. Online identity is often fragmented. We present versions of ourselves polished, filtered, optimized. Over time, the gap between who we perform and who we are can create deep inner tension. consistently spoke to the heart beneath appearances. He warned against performative righteousness and public displays meant to impress. Authenticity in his teaching was always inward before outward. The soul does not thrive under constant performance. It needs honesty, rest, and acceptance. When identity becomes a project, anxiety follows. We fear being exposed, replaced, or forgotten. Jesus offers a different foundation for identity. He speaks of being rather than branding, of belonging rather than achieving, of being known rather than being seen. In a digital world that rewards visibility, Jesus reminds us that the most important work happens unseen. When we release the pressure to perform, the soul exhales. Anxiety fades when identity becomes rooted, not managed. We communicate constantly, yet many feel profoundly lonely. Messages travel instantly, but intimacy requires time. Jesus modeled connection that was slow, embodied, and attentive. He listened, he touched, he stayed. Love, in his teaching, was not abstract, it was present. Digital culture often confuses reach with relationship. Followers replace friends. Visibility replaces vulnerability. Jesus' command to love one another was not about scale, it was about depth. Love requires attention, and attention requires stillness. Without presence, connection becomes transactional. Modern anxiety often stems from relational hunger, being seen but not known. Jesus invites us back to human rhythms of connection, listening without interruption, caring without performance, being with rather than broadcasting. When connection becomes real again, anxiety softens, the nervous system calms, and love, once rushed, becomes restorative. Rest is deeply countercultural. Productivity defines worth. Busyness signals importance. Yet Jesus consistently chose rest even when needs were urgent. Come to me, all who are weary, he said. Rest, in his teaching, is not weakness, it is obedience. It is trust expressed through stillness. Digital culture rarely rests. It scrolls, refreshes, consumes. Burnout becomes normal. Jesus interrupts this cycle with a radical invitation. Stop. Rest resists a system that demands constant output. It recenters identity beyond productivity. In rest, anxiety loses its fuel. Jesus' wisdom does not promise escape from responsibility, but it teaches sustainable living. Rest restores clarity, compassion, and peace. In a world exhausted by speed, rest becomes sacred. And through rest, ancient wisdom heals modern souls. Ancient wisdom was never outdated. It was waiting for a world tired enough to listen again. Be still. You are enough. You are not alone.